Hi, this is Jason from Effective Dashboards, helping maintenance and reliability professionals get the most out of Power BI. So welcome back to another video. In this video, I'm going to be talking about goals. So goals are the feature that is in the Power BI service, and they allow you to create these scorecards and define a range of goals and sub-goals within the scorecards, set the status of these goals, set the value, set the target, and either update that information manually if it's not in Power BI, or connect these values here and these trends here through to the existing reports and consolidate that information all in one scorecard. Okay, so let's get started. So goals are available here. Now, when you click on goals, you get a bit of a summary of the goals that you've looked at recently, and you've got the option to create a new scorecard. Now, before we go and create a new scorecard, I just want to quickly show you how goals fit into the Power BI service architecture. Okay, so what we've got here is we've got the workspaces and apps, and within these workspaces and apps we've got these scorecards, and within scorecards we've got goals. Okay, so that's the kind of the hierarchy there. They sit at the same level as reports and dashboards, so these can also be added into an app. So you can have scorecards in an app, you can have reports in an app, you can have dashboards within an app, and you can sort of have them all in the same container. So once you're in the goals, we'll go and we'll create a new scorecard. And what we're going to actually recreate is, if I go into this app here, okay, this is one I created earlier. What we're actually going to recreate is this balanced scorecard, or these metrics that are tracked on a balanced scorecard. Okay, so this is one I created earlier. I've got a video, I'll leave a link above and in the description to this video. Now that's ideal if you've got all your information in Power BI and you want to be flexible with how it's formatted and laid out in the conditional format, etc. So definitely advantages to being able to set this up if you've got all that information and if you've got the capability to go and set up these reports, because they're far more flexible. Now, where goals come in is if you want to, we'll go here, if you want to set up really quickly and really easily a range of goals, and you're not too concerned with the layout and the formatting, because pretty much this is what you get. There's no options here to go and change these columns and how they're displayed. You can change the colors here, but that's pretty much it. So if you want to be able to set something up quickly, you're not too concerned about the formatting and the layout, then goals is definitely for you. So let's get started and we'll go and create one. So I'm going to go back to the Power BI main page and I'm on goals here. So I'm going to start by creating a new scorecard. Okay, and we're going to call this, okay, maintenance balance scorecard KPI tracker. I need to call it something different to what the one I've created already. In the description here, we'll put a meaningful description. Okay, so that is that's another description here. And then you've got the workspace. So which workspace do we want to add this into? So I'm going to add it into this maintenance KPI scorecard workspace. Now you can also create a workspace directly from here, but I'm just going to add it into the existing one here. Okay, and then we're just going to create. Okay, so we're in the scorecard now, and we can see we've got an option here to create a new goal. So how we're going to work this is that I'm going to create goals as these aspect headers. They're not going to have too much information related to them, they're just going to be containers. And then I'm going to add in these here, these metrics, and they're going to be the goals that we're going to actually track. So let's go back in here and we'll create one for finance. And we can have an owner, and we'll leave that as myself for just now. Now the current target values, they're not mandatory, so we're going to leave those blank because this is just going to be like a header here, so we don't need a value for that. We're going to leave the status at not started, we'll come back to that, and we're going to put a due date of the end of the year. Okay, so we'll just save that. So that's just really just a holding place there. Now I'm going to click on here, and then I'm going to add in a new goal here. Sorry, I'm going to add in a sub-goal. So you can see because I've clicked on here, this sub-goal option becomes available. So let's add in a sub-goal. And let's go and add in the first one, which is losses due to equipment failures. And then I'm going to click on this again, and I'm going to add a sub-goal. And the next sub-goal is going to be cost of data maintenance. Okay, so I'm going to save these. So I'm just going to go and create the aspect headers and the actual sub-goals for each one of these, and then we can go in and start to populate each of the goals. Okay, so that's me created the structure here. We've got the main goal here, and we've got these sub-goals here, which is actually going to be the goals we're going to track. Now, when it comes to goals, there's really two different types of goals that I'm going to be covering. The first one here is an ongoing goal. Okay, so these are scorecards, and it's basically got, we're going to have targets for each one of these on an ongoing basis. Okay, some of them will be year to date, like this one here, but then it'll just roll over to the next year and it'll be an ongoing goal, essentially to keep below a target, above a target. The other aspect that we're looking at is going to be initiatives. Okay, so improvement initiatives particularly. So that'll be specific discrete projects that have got a scope of work, a start and an end date, and they are going to be tracked in a different scorecard, and I'll show you the subtle differences and some of the setup changes that you need to make, and I'll start by doing that just now. So the first thing we need to do before we go and start populating these is actually make sure that we've got these status codes here are things that are relevant. Okay, so if I go into this cog here, and we've got the details, the description, the name, etc. Some permissions, who can update that. I'm not going to go into that too much just now, but this status is here are basically all the codes that are available in here. Okay, so just now it's all not started. Now these status codes here are actually more suited towards a discrete project with a start, an end date, a scope of work, and it's got something that says, okay, at the end of this we want it to be this particular value. So hence we've got overdue, behind, at risk, on track, etc. So that's fine, and we're going to use that, like I said, in a different scorecard, and that's why you might want to use two different scorecards, one for your discrete projects and one for ongoing tracking of this balanced scorecard type KPIs. So I'm going to go and just change some of these. So this one here I'm going to change to off target. I'm going to get rid of this one here. I'm going to leave that at risk. I'm going to change this to be on target. I'm going to change this one to be unknown. And I'm going to get rid of this completed. Okay, so you can see there's just a little bit of configuration there that means that when we start to allocate these status codes to these KPIs here, they're a bit more relevant to something that's an ongoing type of monitoring situation rather than a discrete endpoint where you've got maybe something that's completed or behind schedule or whatever. So let's save that, and we can see these drive the cards that are automatically created along the top here. Okay, we've got 15 goals, and at the moment the status of these goals is unknown. So let's start putting some information in here. So the first thing I'm going to do is show you how you can actually just enter the information manually. So let's choose our critical equipment availability. So I'm going to go to this edit feature here. Now you've got a toggle here between read mode and edit. So if it's in read mode, then you can't actually edit it there, obviously. So I'm going to go in here, and the current value is going to be the value for, okay, so we'll get the start of the year and the end of the year. That's fine, it's going to span a year. So I'm going to put in the current value here as being percentage. So I'm going to put in 0.98. It's a percentage, that's fine. And then I'm going to put the actual target value as being 0.8. Okay, so 80%. Okay, and then in here the status is going to be on target. Okay, so basically we want the target to be above this 80% value here, so it's on target. Now what you can do is, if I save that, it's going to pull that information in here, and we can see we've got the current value and we've got the target there. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I want to put in information for historic data points as well, so we can start to see a trend appear in here, this progress here. So let's go into this, update the goal values, and add a note. Okay, so we've got a little trend here that's only got one data point on it, but we want more. We've selected today, so it's just making sure that we it's just warning us here that we've already put in one in for today, so it's fine. I'm going to save that. I'm going to create a new check-in, and this check-in is going to be for the value at the end of January. Okay, and I'm going to make that value at the end of January 79%, and we're going to put that at risk. Okay, so it's slightly behind it. I'm going to save it there. Okay, so we can see we're starting to get a little trend here. I'll add a new check-in here for the end of February. Okay, now what you can also add for each of these is a little note. Okay, so just a narrative that explains some background as to why this value was what it was on that particular date. Okay, so we can put something. Okay, so we can put something like that in there, just a wee narrative, and you can do the formatting, etc. And you can add some lists and anything you want to put in here. Okay, so we can see this trend's building up, and I'll put one in, so it's February, March, April, and I'll put in one for, yeah, we'll just leave it at that for just now. Okay, so we can see we've got a history here of the data points. We've got some narrative here, some comments against this particular data point here. So we've got a history all built up. So in terms of history, there's also another tab here called history, or another section here. So all that does is really just to give you a compressed version with a percentage change and a status. Okay, so it's quite similar to this here, but it just lets you see it in a bit more of a compressed form here. So we'll cover the other two later on. So that is the first one. So we've manually put that information in. We can see we've now got a trend here, and we've now got a month-on-month difference between the two data points. So it's starting to take a little bit of shape here. Okay, so next we're going to go and we're going to look at updating this one here, work orders waiting approval. So I'm going to go in and edit this goal. And for this one here, I want to connect the current value to an existing dataset, or then the existing report, and it's dead straightforward. So first of all, you connect to data, and it's going to give you a list of all of the reports in all of the workspaces and apps that you've got access to. So there's loads in here. So for me, I'm going to go to apps first of all, and I know the one that I want is under this one here, work management final. So then I'm going to press next, and it's going to give me a preview of, or the view of the actual report and the visualizations within that report. So here we can see all the different visuals, and we can see we can highlight the one that we want to pull in. Now what we are looking for here are work orders waiting approval, so work orders waiting risk review essentially. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually select this value at the bottom here. Now I could select a value for a specific row here if I wanted to, but I want to select this value here. So I'm going to click on here, and it's going to show me the filter that's applied, and it's going to ask me which actual measure I want. Now because it was a matrix, it could be that I can choose any one of these, but I actually want the one that I've selected here. Work orders waiting risk review greater than 7 days. Okay, and then I'm going to connect. So the value is 10, and the value has been pulled through here. It's been grayed out, and we can now see that that is now connected to the underlying report. So whenever that report update refreshes and updates, then this will also update. So that is really straightforward. You can leverage any reports that you've got, and it's just a case of dragging, opening up the report and just clicking on the value you want to pull in. So for the target, we don't have a target on that particular report. So for the target, I'm going to enter that manually, and I'm going to put that as being 15. So we can mix and match between the two. Okay, you can have a value here taken from connected to some data, and you can have a manually enter target. You can have both, or you can have a target taken from a report and the current value being manually entered. So there's real flexibility there. So then what we're going to do is we're going to go in and I'm going to set up a rule here. Okay, so rather than manually update this value like I did there, I'm going to set up a rule here. Okay, so to set up the rule, you click the button here, set up the rules. And it's taking us to this tab here, and we're going to click on new rule. And I want to keep this fairly straightforward. If it's higher than less than 15, it's going to be on target. If it's greater than 15, if it's less than or equal to 15, it's going to be on target. If it's greater than 15, it's going to be off target. So really straightforward. We've got this rule builder here. If the value is greater than 15, now it can be that we put an absolute value or a percentage of the actual target value. We'll just leave it as an absolute value just now. Then we're going to go and it's going to be off target, and otherwise it's going to be on target. Okay, so it's fairly straightforward. So that's a really straightforward rule, and if I close that down and save it, we should see a few things start to happen here. Okay, so that's changed to be on target. We've got the actual value, we've got the absolute value here, and if I think you need to just open up. No, it's not giving us this. That's because we don't have a trend over time. Actually, we've just got the one value here. So we could go back and we could actually then do check-ins for each of the previous weeks or months like we did in the previous example there. However, for this one I'm just going to leave it as it is. Now next I'm going to show you how you can pull in a history. Okay, we never had a history for this one, it was just a static value. So let's go up and look at our losses due to equipment failures. So I'm going to click on here and I'm going to click on current value and we're going to connect it to some data. And I'm going to go and search for this. Losses due to equipment failures. Okay, so we've already got a report in place and we can see that this one is an actual trend. So if I click on the actual trend here, now we've got the option to choose which value it is we want to go for. Now I've got the actual target and I've got the losses here. So for this one here I want it to be the losses, and we can track a particular data point or we can track all of this time series. Now if you track all of the time series, what it does is it loads all of the historical data into our historical check-ins and it displays the current value. Okay, so the most recent value, which is here. Okay, so really powerful. So let's click on that again. Yeah, and then connect. Okay, now for the, so we can see it's pulled in this value here, 770. Now let's go and get the target. So if I go back in here, and we're going to search for this again. And if I click on here, and this time rather than get the measure that shows the actual losses, we've got a measure that was actually displaying the target, and we can see it does change. So the target's 700, then it goes to 500, yeah, it does change over time. So let's go and use the sum of the target, and we can see the latest one here is down to 300. There's a little dip here, and then this connect to the target. Okay, so now both the current value and the target have been pulled into this report here. Okay, so because we've got a target that changes, we need to set up the rules slightly differently. So let's go in and set up these rules. We'll create a new rule. Now, if the value is greater than the value, so that value changes over time. So rather than being an absolute value like we did with the previous one, which was anything over 10 was off target or whatever it was, we're going to use this one here, percentage of target. Okay, so if the target changes like it has done, it's always going to be looking at a percentage of the target rather than the absolute value. So that's where this becomes really useful. So if the value is greater than 100% of the target, then we're going to say off target. Otherwise, we're going to say on target. Okay, and then we're going to go and save that. And then we'll close it down. And that should, if I save that, do a few things. Okay, so what we've got is we've got the current value, we've got the current target. We can see we're above the target here. We're off target because that's been manual. That's been automatically. It's looked at this target at 300 and says, well, we're above 100% that target. And we can see that over time we've got this trend here that's been pulled in. Now, if I go in and click on here and look at the history, we can see that all of these data values that were in the graph have all been pulled in. Okay, so we can see we've got a history, and also each time the value is being compared with the actual target at that point in time. Okay, so that's how you can get a view of the previous historical data. Now we've also got this trend here, which is great. No check-in activities yet, but as we move forward we'll start to create these check-ins and add some narrative and add additional values if we need to. So that is the example there of pulling in the actual value, the target, and some historical trend information. So really useful if you want to actually leverage some of the information you've already got in some of your reports and pull it into this particular scorecard along with manually added data. So the mix and match element is really powerful. Okay, so the other option that you've got, or the other feature that becomes available once you actually connect your value here to an actual underlying report, is if you go into this option here, you can actually go to the report. Okay, so it's actually going to be automatically adding the capability to hyperlink through to this report. and you can actually see straight away what the actual underlying report is. In this one here, it's probably got the same information, but this report may have additional information that can supplement the high level value that you're seeing through on the scorecard. So that's a really powerful feature that just comes automatically as soon as you connect to an existing data source. Okay, so that is the KPI scorecard style for setting up goals. Now, just a final one here in this this particular example. If you do need to update this value here for the header, which I would recommend, then you just need to update it manually. Okay, you can't set up the rules at the moment to look at the number of sub goals that are on target or off target, and then derive a value up here. So it's just a case of going in and manually setting this up. Okay, so the other example that I'm going to talk through is if you've got a scorecard that you want to use to track some discrete projects. Okay, so by projects I mean rather than an ongoing value to keep above or below a certain value, it's got a beginning and an end and either a percentage complete or a particular goal that you want to track for that particular project or initiative. So what I've done here is I've created another scorecard called Maintenance and Reliability Improvement Project Programs 2022. And in here we've got 5 different programs. Okay, and we want to track these programs just throughout 2022. So the first thing is if we go into edit, we will go to status here, and these status codes are slightly different because we're looking at overdue, behind, at risk, on track, planned. It all makes kind of sense. Completed, if any of these have been completed within that that particular period. So we're going to leave these as they are. So I'll just cancel it here. And we can see that the setup is exactly the same. I've just got goals here. I've created some sub goals, and this one here has been linked through to an actual report, and that'll just update as and when the underlying data updates. But we've got a target here of 0. Now, what I did want to show you here was how you could set up some milestones and derive this status here based on some milestones. So let's go in and we'll edit this goal here. And we're going to set up some rules here to define this this status. So let's go in and we'll create a new rule. And for these rules here, what I've done is I've actually, let's go to details, and let's go to the bottom here. I've actually got a list of milestones, or a list of kind of key milestones that I want to reach by the end of each month. Okay, so after January, I want to be 10% through the project, and that'll be the project kickoff and scoping, right through to March, April, right through to the very end. Okay, so each one of these shows the progress towards this 100% complete status. So let's put in something for March here to say that by the end of March we want to be 25% through the project, and if not, we want to basically indicate that by saying we're behind is the status. So let's go to the status rules. We'll add a new rule here. The value. So if the value is, and we'll put in less than or equal to, and we wanted it to be 0.25, okay, percentage of the target, which is it's not percentage of target, it's just 0.25, okay, percent. Now the other thing we can put in here is an and. Okay, so we're going to add in an additional for this rule, we're going to add in an additional criteria. Okay, and the date is on or after, and we're going to put in a date here of the end of March. So by the end of March we were looking to be 25% through the project. If that isn't the case, then we're going to put in behind. Okay, otherwise we're going to put in that we are on track. Okay, so what's going to check for now is it's going to check the date, and it's going to say at this particular date was the value 25%. Okay, so let's go and see that in action, and we can see that if I save this, the value is behind. Okay, now just to prove that's actually working, rather than say behind, let's update this rule here to say overdue. Okay, and we'll close that, save it. We can see it's overdue. Okay, because the current date is what's the date here? It's the 25th of April. Okay, so really, or 24th of April. So basically, what it's saying is the current value is 20. The current date is the 24th of April. Our rules are saying if it's after the if it's 25, If it's less than 25 and greater than the 31st of March, then we've got a problem. Okay, so we can go and update this. So let's go in here and we're going to update this to, we made some progress, 26%, and then we're back on track again. Okay, and you can set up milestones, these milestone pairs. Let's go back in here. So add a new role, and if we've got a milestone for the end of April, May and June, we can set these up pairs up here, and then it'll just automatically update whenever you actually input the progress for that particular goal. Okay, so just another way that you can actually automate some of this and make sure that these status codes are automatically updated. So that is about it for goals at the moment. It's still in preview, so if we go back to here, we can see it's still in preview, so it may change. They may even change the description of what it actually is. But you can also see that we can see the ones that we've accessed most recently as under this recommended section here. So pretty powerful. In the next video, or part 2 of this session, I'm going to show you how you can use goals and integrate them into teams and integrate them and create some actions based on the values of the goals using Power Automate. So that's all for now. If you like this video, it's always appreciated if you could give it a thumbs up. And if you want to subscribe and keep up to date with the latest information and the latest videos I release on a weekly basis, then hit the subscribe button and that will keep you notified. So apart from that, thanks for watching and I'll talk to you in the next video.